some dreadlocks questions? Then do I have some hopefully satisfactory answers for you? Yes, that's right, it's that time again, that dreadlocks question and answer time where I answer your questions. First question this week comes from Amanda Stewart, and Amanda asks, question, I've noticed that the new growth on my badly sectioned dreadlocks is much thinner than the lock that I made. Will this even out over time? With young dreadlocks, you will notice that the root feels kind of weak and thin compared to the dreadlock that you have just made. And that is because the part that you have made, that is hair that has been compressed, it's been moved down, it's all been knotted up tight and firm. And so it's going to feel a lot stronger than just regular, normal, straight hair. The hair at your scalp is just that, regular, normal, straight hair. It's still going to be growing out a little bit. It's going to take some time before the dreadlock properly locks up tight to the root. So in that time it's going to grow out, it's going to loosen up a bit at the root there, and so the length of looseness is going to increase, and it's going to be, as I said, unknotted hair, and that's going to feel weaker compared to the knotted up bit. And so we'll definitely give the impression that the roots are getting thinner and weaker, but all that's happening is they're loosening up a little bit, it's going back to the regular straight hair, and that regular straight hair does not have the same sort of density and therefore apparent strength when compared to the knotted up hair. That's not to say that dreadlocks can't thin out, that's not to say that they can't get damaged and weakened and thin out of the roots, but with young dreadlocks, generally they're not going to have been exposed to anything for long enough to have damaged the roots in such a way as to noticeably thin them out yet, but they will loosen up a little bit and give that sort of normal hair feeling. If you would like to know more about the topic of thinning roots, you will find a link in the description to my thinning roots video where I cover the whole thing in a lot more detail. Next question is from Morgan Hill. Morgan asks, my dreads are like 51 days old and I have loops and bumps, and I know this is normal to have and I'm okay with that. Just wondering, in time do they go away or do they just stay like that and just less noticeable? Thanks, smiley face. Lots of people freak out about lumps, bumps and loops. It's gonna be one of my most frequently asked questions. Loops, lumps, bumps, zigzags, whatever you want to call them, they occur when the dreadlocks shrink up. This is all part of the locking up, the maturing process. This is what you want. You want the dreadlocks to compress and tighten and get stronger, but they unfortunately don't always do that evenly. So you get a lock and maybe one side locks up a bit faster than the other side, causes there to be anomalies. Some sides getting pushed out, some sides getting pulled in tighter, and so you get this lumpy, bumpy, wavy texture occurring. So on the one hand, it is a good sign. It is a visible sign that your dreads are tightening, they are locking up. It is an undeniable sign that things are progressing. But on the other hand, not everyone likes the whole lumpy, bumpy, loopy mess because, you know, it's messy, it's not all that tidy looking, and it's not what everyone wants. Over time, these lumps, bumps, and loops will fade slightly. They'll kind of get mashed around in your day-to-day life and get compacted, and all the surrounding hair will tighten and hopefully pull them a bit straighter, but they will never be 100% perfectly smooth. You can try and minimize the lumps and bumps forming. Some people have had good experiences with palm rolling the dreadlocks while they are drying. A lot of the shrinkage occurs as the dreadlocks are drying after they've been washed, and so palm rolling them can help even out the shrinkage and so reduce the likelihood that you're going to get lots of lumps and bumps, but it is by no means a guarantee. Other people slide beads or tie string over the lumps and bumps to try and squeeze them down, but the most popular method of permanently removing the lumps and bumps and loops would be to crochet them in. Now, crocheting is going to come with its own sets of pros and cons, and it is a permanent change, so if it is something you're considering, you should check out those pros and cons and make sure that it is right for you. It is worth noting that the new growth will not experience the lumps, bumps and loops in the same way. You're only going to get the lumps, bumps and loops forming in your original length, because that's the length that shrinks. Your new growth will grow and not at a constant rate, and so should hopefully be pretty much lump, bump and loop free. paddynbob asks, I've been thinking of blunting my tips. My dreads are 4 months and know all the usual downsides that you talk about, e.g. increased drying time, but I've heard rumours that your dreads won't lock up as fast and may be thinner, and similar things about crochet, etc. Any help on that? Cheers, smiley face. Crocheting is a very large topic. You've got lots of people on one side who are very much for crocheting and people on the side who are very much against crocheting. There really doesn't seem to be a whole lot of grey area where people are kind of so-so about it. As mentioned in the previous question, there are a set of pros and cons that go along with crocheting. However, since this question in particular is only referring to the tips, it does simplify things. If you are planning on only using the crochet hook on the tips for tip blunting, it does really simplify matters because most of the problems and downsides that can occur with crochet hooking, well, you're not going to experience them if you're just going to be blunting the tips. When you blunt tips with a crochet hook, you don't really need to do it all that often. If you have very young dreadlocks that are still soft throughout, then crocheting is not going to really hold the tips. You're going to find that there's nothing to really crochet them into, and then it's going to keep washing out, and you have to keep redoing it and redoing it. If your dreadlocks are at a stage where there is some sort of solid body mass going on there, you will be able to crochet the tips in and find that they will hold throughout washing, and you shouldn't need to worry about them for long periods of time. And therefore that infrequent crocheting is not going to cause a whole lot of problems, and even if it does, it's only at the tips of the dread. And as far as dreadlock damage goes, the tips are like the area that you really don't have to worry about. What's the worst thing that could happen if you damage the tips? I mean, it's not like there's anything to break off below the tips. The tips are not going to experience a whole lot of stress because there's no weight pulling on them. If blunted tips is what you very much desire and you're only planning on crocheting just the tips for the tip blunting, then I would say that the risk of damage is pretty low, and it's not going to be a big worry. Eric Fernandez asks, if I decide to cut off my dreadlocks, can I save them for dread extensions in the future? I'm not going to cut them anytime soon. I have seen this done. I have seen people do it. It is certainly possible. They can be added on in the same way as other extensions. You won't just be able to kind of cut your dreadlocks off, grow your hair out, start some new dreads, and attach the old ones back on as if nothing ever happened, because it's going to be quite hard to match dreadlocks back, but you can definitely add older dreadlocks back onto your head, someone else's head, as an extension. Leon Petru Dinsdale asks, what causes dreads to split at the root? It is a common occurrence for dreadlocks to split at the root, and what that means is you have one solid dreadlock and it suddenly starts to split at the root into two dreadlocks. It's kind of the opposite of congoing. Instead of two dreadlocks growing into one, you have one splitting into two. The cause for this is going to be different for different people with different hair in different situations. Hair is experiencing different things, but what I find to be one of the most likely causes is if you section your dreadlocks and you come across the unfortunate event that some hair wants to go in one direction and some hair wants to go in a different direction, then you can find that section kind of pulls away when you don't really want it to. It often happens sort of on the corner of your head, so you have some hair that's kind of on the top and some hair that's kind of on the side, and the root kind of splits a little bit and you can end up with the root getting split out a bit there. Fortunately, most root splitting will fix itself, it will resolve itself, because you've got two halves of dread, they act as two dreadlocks that are very close to each other, and since you won't be separating those yourself, they will have a very high likelihood of just congoing together and reforming back together because they're held together with the bit that's still dreaded above. If you would like to encourage the growing back together, if you'd like to speed it up, you can go about it the same way as you would encouraging congos to form. You can slide a bead down the dread to the split to hold the two halves together, and that will help the two halves reform. Or you can loosely tie some string around the two halves. Don't make it too tight, otherwise you can restrict the locking, but just a little bit of string to keep the two halves close to each other and try and keep them from attaching to other dreads, and that can also help get those two root halves to lock back together. Those are my questions for this week. If you'd like to leave me a question to be answered in a Dreadlocks Q&A video, you can either leave your question as a comment in a reply to one of my Dreadlock Q&A videos, preferably the latest one. Please write question at the start of your comment and then it will join the queue. If you have no time for queues, if you are very busy and you would like your question answering in a video soon, you can join the Facebook page at facebook.com/lazydreads, and over there each Tuesday I will ask people, do you have any questions for this week's Q&A, and whichever question as I reply to that status gets the most Facebook likes by the time that I film my next video, well, that question will get answered straight away that week, no waiting. If you found this video helpful, enjoyable, fun in any way, you can click the like button and then I will know that you liked it and I should do more. If you would like to see more videos from me in the future, you can click subscribe and then all the videos will be thrown at you at high speed down your internet cables to your YouTube feeds. As always, you can find all my information, all my guides, all my tutorials, all my things on lazydreads.com in some sort of navigatable order. I'd like to thank you all for watching. I hope to see you again soon. Farewell!